Hello and welcome to Quartzlight, your car brochure channel. Today we're looking at the Toyota Landcruiser J60. Welcome back, and incidentally, if you are into car brochures, please do subscribe. Helps the channel, but more importantly, I'm sure you'll get something out of it if you are into car brochures. Anyway, today's episode, the Toyota Landcruiser. The Landcruiser, a well-established name going all the way back to 1951. It really started off being a very rugged alternative to a Land Rover series vehicle. However, we're looking at the J60 today. And the J60 was a little bit different. Yeah, it still had that great off-road ability, but it started introducing a few creature comforts to sort of better compete with this emerging sort of sports utility vehicles that started becoming more and more popular in the 80s. So the J60, and this is a UK brochure, an early one. The J60 first introduced in 1980 for the 1981 model year. It ran all the way till 1990. But anyway, let's have a look at today's brochure and see what we can see. And here we have it, this UK brochure. You see it's an early one, it does say the word new Landcruiser on it. And like I said, first introduced in 1980 for the 1981 model year. This brochure is 1982, still using the word new, so I'm presuming it didn't actually come to the UK until 82, although I don't have any official figures when it did arrive in the UK. You can also see it's an early J60 model by these sort of round headlamps. And like I said, introduced a few more creature comforts to compete with these off-road vehicles, becoming a little bit more upmarket, but still, you know, by today's standards, this is a very rugged off-road vehicle, and certainly an extremely reliable vehicle that you could do a lot of miles in it. It did come in a lot of different engine choices, like 4.2s and 4-litre petrols, but also 3.4 diesels and 4-litre diesels. I think this brochure is actually only showing a diesel, so I'm presuming that was the only model available at the time in the UK. But anyway, enough waffle, let's open it up. And yeah, you can see straight away we've also got a 1st of February 1982 Toyota car price list, which we'll have a little bit look at, and we can like see where the Toyota Landcruiser can like fit in there. First of all, it's kind of like showing us these seats. Yeah, they don't look luxurious, do they, at all? So what's he going on about? This is bringing creature comforts. But you have to don't forget that these Toyota Landcruiser were extremely crude vehicles when they first came out. Like I say, just to sort of compete with the Land Rovers in Africa, etc. And they were extremely crude and extremely basic, just like you would find in an early Land Rover. But like I say, this is adding a few more creature comforts to make it a little bit easy to live with, and also to compete with that ever-emerging SUV market. We'll have a look at some of this text, and then we'll look at it a little bit further. You can also see on this page how handy it was, or how it's advertising it as sort of like an estate car, really. You know, a lot of space to put in there. No doubt, even at this time, a lot of people bought these and probably didn't venture too far off-road in the UK. Even so, one of the issues with these Landcruisers was rust, and you know, it was very much affected by rust. The bodywork didn't last as long as the engines and the transmissions on them, although they were extremely solid vehicles. Anyway, I'm waffling again. Let's read some of this text. So straight away it started by saying Toyota means quality worldwide. The new Landcruiser is no exception. Handsome style tells the world the right thing about its owner, and fine engineering deep down inside assures long and reliable service. Gone are the days when ruggedness alone was enough in a four-wheel drive car. The demand now is for it to be combined with saloon car standards of comfort, economy and ease of driving. The LandCruiser is unrivaled in its response to these requirements and at a price that will surprise. The LandCruiser will pull a horse trailer with ease and stability, or slog along muddy forest trails, or rush across arid deserts all day with ease, but you wouldn't know this. Lots of deserts in the UK, of course. But you won't know this unless you want to find out for yourself. For on normal roads in town and country, it feels light to drive and the ride is superb. It goes on to say accurate power steering, boosted disc drum brakes and fine suspension design, see to that. Inside there are the creature's comforts that are taken for granted at a Toyota saloon. It's just that the LandCruiser is higher off the ground with a better view of the countryside. This is a spacious 5-door, 5-seater with generous shoulder room and headroom in front and rear. The driver has ample legroom and there is plenty of space to stretch in the rear seat, etc, etc. So, it's really affirming that this is a little bit more luxurious, although in most cases it was, particularly in the UK, a vehicle that wasn't really needed for most, and I guess that's why SUVs changed to having less and less off-road ability and more creature comforts. This, like I say, it's adding a few creature comforts, but it is very much a vehicle that you could drive all around Africa. When we turn over the page, it then goes on to tell us a little bit more, talking a bit more from now moving from the luxury to being, it's still an off-road vehicle. It's talking about freewheeling hubs are fitted as standard for economy and silence of operation in two-wheel drive mode. The easy use of the transfer box lever completes the picture with a versatile transmission offering the following: H2 high ratio two-wheel drive for normal economy road use, and with the front hubs locked you have the choice of high 4 high ratio four-wheel drive for when the going gets slippery, and low L4 low ratio four-wheel drive for when you're driving where others fear to tread, towing in the mud or sand, or negotiating extra steep slopes. But then it goes on to tell us it's got these semi-elliptical leaf springs to absorb all the pounding. So very basic suspension system indeed. Think Land Rover. It's kind of like that sort of market, but this is before the days of the Defender, of course. So competing against such cars as the Range Rover. I guess, dare I say it, a Range Rover that's actually reliable. Maybe that's how a lot of people would see this. It goes on to show us some of the interior. You can see the normal manual gearbox and that sort of like low ratio, similar sort of thing you would find on a Land Rover. So very basic indeed, although you can see a proper dashboard. You wouldn't see this at this time in sort of like a Land Rover. But like I said, this is a little bit more upmarket, still not as refined as a Range Rover at the time, but not far off it. It gives us another little image of this normal 4-speed gear lever and that high-low ratio, and then some lovely images of the LandCruiser in various scenes around the world, showing it in both this red colour and this blue. But as you notice, steel wheels. Steel wheels, of course, the best for off-roading, although this is trying to say it's now to be used, in the countryside and in the towns. So a little bit of a mixed message it's kind of portraying, I think. Only a short fold-out brochure this one, so we're straight in with the specifications, and you can see at this time in the UK only one engine choice, 6-cylinder diesel, 3980cc, And we're having a manual 4-speed all synchromesh option as being your only option. We've got that transfer box, your 2-speed Heligear 2 4-wheel drive. And it's talking a little bit about the steering and the brakes and that suspension, that front semi-elliptical leaf springs. So I kind of think that's still a little bit agricultural, isn't it, having those leaf spring suspension on it to make it a little bit of a harder ride, although it's a long wheelbase, so it does help a little bit, but still a very crude suspension system. Some of the dimensions, I'm not going to go through them all, but you can certainly have a look at it. A big vehicle on UK roads, there's no doubt about that. And then we get up to the equipment. So it's saying it's got fully carpeted cloth upholstery, front inertia rear seat belts, reclining front seats with separate head restraints, LW, MW, FM push button radio, 2-speed wipers plus intermittent adjustable collapsible steering column, 4-speed bi-lever heated demister, heated rear window wash wipe, freewheeling front hubs, oil cooler, trailer socket harness, cigarette lighter, driver and passenger door mirror, luggage compartment lamp, passenger vanity mirror, tachometer, power steering, mud flaps, hand throttle. So a lot of equipment, like Toyota like to do, throw lots of equipment on it to say it's got more than the competition. But certainly by today's standard, certainly not a luxurious car. We get a little bit of a look at the engine compartment, the lighting controls, that freewheeling hub, a few of the lights of the fuel filter and the water sediment warning lamps. They're unusual little gauges and lamps, aren't they? AM, LW, FM radio, passenger heater, which is a nice thing because it's a big vehicle, this one, isn't it? So nice to see that sort of passenger heater, although you can see it's a very rudimentary system, kind of like what we'd see on an extremely agricultural vehicle, which is really what this is. And adjustable steering column control, and we've even got a rev counter. And then the back page, we've got another sort of image of it doing a little bit of off-roading. And particularly around everywhere else in the world, it's kind of like the Toyotas were taking over from Land Rover, although Land Rovers and Range Rovers were still the main seller in the UK. We then move on to the Toyota United Kingdom car price list. So let's have a look to see where this fits in with the range. And at this stage, Toyota really had an extensive range of vehicles for the UK in 1982. So starting off with this little Toyota Starlet 1 litre GL 5-door manual, on the road price of £3,715 and 6 pence. Also nice to sort of see that colour choice at the time as well. As we go down, the prices increase. Seeing the Corollas. We did a Corolla brochure recently, if you remember, these unusual Corollas with the liftbacks and the estates. There's the prices in there. And then we move up from the Corolla now into the Carina and the Celica. If you remember the Celica, quite a car in the 80s was the Celica. And we still haven't got to LandCruiser, of course. We have to turn the page. Celica, then we've got the Cressida, the Crown. If you remember the Crown Super Saloon that we had a look at, that was a £10,000 car, and you can see some of the colour choices for that Crown. And then finally we get to the Toyota Landcruiser 4 litre diesel, 2 4-wheel drive, 5-door estate, £11,192.56. So yeah, £11,192.56. A lot of money in 1982, but For me, it shows how expensive that Toyota Crown was. £10,000 for a Toyota Crown 2.8 4-door Super Saloon. That's a lot of whack of change in 1982. Really not that much more to step up to the LandCruiser, although it was there as sort of the flagship model, really, the most expensive vehicle at the time. That particular LandCruiser available in red, white, light blue metallic and copper metallic, all having that beige interior. And then if we look down the bottom, there's a little bit of a Toyota UK, just showing the GB price list on this particular one. So there we go, the Toyota Landcruiser, and what a car what it was, a real iconic vehicle, tough go anywhere vehicle, starting to introduce that little tiny bit of luxury to it. My main memory though of seeing these in the 80s, and relatively new vehicles, they did seem to have a few rust issues. Let me know what your sort of memory or image of the Toyota Landcruiser was. Jot it down in the comments, and of course please do like and subscribe, of course, if you're onto car brochures. There'll be many more episodes to come, but for now we'll say take care and goodbye.